Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Sudut Pandang yang dirakamkan khas di sisi Forum Begitu Penting Asia Pacific Roundtable yang ke-25, dan saya berterima kasih kepada ASEAN dan ASEAN ISIS, terutamanya juga kepada ISIS Malaysia. I would like now to welcome a very important and eminent speaker at this roundtable, Commander of the US PACOM or Pacific Command, Admiral Robert Willard. Thank you so much for making time to be here. I've listened to your presentation. I've been in the press conference that you were in. It seems like an admiral is not just an army or navy man anymore. They must also do diplomacy. They must read everything outside the military domain too. In that particular respect, how do you look at the success of Operation Geronimo in Abu Tabat, and finally the #1 enemy of the United States of America in that list has been dealt with? However, if we look at what's happening post of that attack in Pakistan, which might be the area that you have to oversee too, there's a lot of problems rising for that host country at the moment. So how do you balance the need of the military, making diplomacy, at the same time looking at the security aspect, quality of life of the people?
I think it's very important that military leadership today understand certainly the area that they're responsible for and the nations within it. When we look at the Asia Pacific as an example, within my area of responsibility are 36 nations, 34 of them with either militaries or security forces that U.S. Pacific Command interacts with. This necessitates an understanding between the United States and these countries regarding their interests, their policies, their military priorities, so that those interactions can be effective. At my level, I generally interact with senior ministers, and their nation's interests are certainly something that we explore together, and that it's important, again, for the United States to fully understand. So part of my responsibility in establishing that dialogue and maintaining it is to ensure that I am communicating the essence of it, the issues, effectively back into Washington. And that's not always to the Department of Defense. Sometimes that's into the Department of State or other secretariats within our government.
So in that particular respect, there's a lot of sensitivities in Asia because the cultural aspect sometimes is not discussed. Even at roundtables like this, we look at things and measure it by GDP growth, at trillions of worth of goods traveling through the sea lines that are very important to us. But at the end of the day, it's also how the people here in Asia Pacific look at things and translate that, their perceptions of the views. The discontent about the base in Okinawa, for example, in certain segments of the Japanese society is testament to that. So how do you manage perception of the people too? Because maybe a visit by US carrier, nuclear powered, for example, is not just about looking at men in uniform, but also have more significant interpretation than that. It's a more complex world.
I think your summary of the importance of perception and prospects for misperception is exactly right. I think it's very, very important that we have an understanding of the culture and the nation's perception of United States actions. This is something that, frankly, we've been learning, and sometimes learning the hard way. I think that that the need for the United States to understand, for example, the varying cultures within Southeast Asia and the drivers in the interactions that we witness occurring in Southeast Asia helps in our perception of why nations do what they do, but it also helps us understand how we'll be perceived, as you suggest, when we interact. So I insist that not just at my level, but among the component commanders, the Pacific Fleet Commander and Army Commander and Air Force Commander, Marine Corps Commander and Special Operations Commander, that there be a broad understanding for them and for their subordinate forces in what culturally is occurring in this region of the world, and how our actions are not only having effect, but being perceived, to your very important question.
The Pacific Fleet was where you were before, and it's very heartening to a certain segment of society in Asia Pacific when you say that, you know, we always have 50 or 60 ships under that Pacific Fleet, you know, looking after the security and interest of maintaining order and to ensure that the goods that we imported or exported can reach their destination safely. But on the other hand, how do we understand the psyche of the perception of people towards this? Because in the days of civil societies rising up, in the days where in Jasmine Revolution in Tunisia, we saw young people not having any weapons, standing up to tanks and guns and looking at them straight into the barrel and being able to voice what they want. So that's a very different era now. And how do we know that the thousands of people on board one nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, for example, will have the same diplomacy and tact that you have? The people responsible to, you know, pull the trigger will have the discipline and the tenacity that you have to look at issues and understand the people in these parts of the world.
Well, I think that the United States military, to this point that you reference, it has a long-standing reputation for its conduct in the region and for its almost singular focus on maintaining the peace and security throughout the region. I think, you know, your point, again, is a very fair one, and that is, what are the values of militaries as they lay down or conduct operations within the Asia-Pacific region? I think it's very important that we all understand that, understand their motives, and especially understand, you know, the standards under which they operate. It goes back somewhat to perceptions, but in fact, it is also the issue of managing risk. And I think we in the United States certainly understand that. We are a nation and a military that has grown in terms of discipline and the way in which we value the standards, guidelines, and protocols under which we operate. So we hope that we're trusted in that regard across the Asia Pacific. And if we're ever not, then I want to know it, and I need to take action to fix it, because we're here for a common cause, and we enjoy the allies and partners that we relate to in this part of the world, and we want to contribute to security, never challenge it.